Hey guys, I'm Chris.
Hey everybody, I'm Robert.
And we, of course, are the Film Flamers, here to give you our hottest tepid response to Lestat Part 2, as promised, since we gave you Lestat Part 1 like a month or so ago.
Yeah, it was toward the end of June, you know? I mean, it started in Pride Month, clearly, because this is quite the gay show, as it continues to be. But it wrapped itself up through July. So we gave you episodes 1 through 3 in the last installment, and now we are here to talk about the rest.
So it's interesting because we were, both of us, excited about the first 3 episodes, 3 or 4 episodes. And especially we're very excited about the writing and the energy of the show. Although I did have some worries about the nature of how it was adapting the books in comparison. And, so it turns out the good things continue to be good things about the show. And the bad things about the show that I was worried about were, in my opinion, founded and were deepened.
Yes, as I recall, I was trying to be ever the optimist and say, well, maybe it'll get better and be a little closer to the source material. But clearly that was just optimism.
No, it seems like it's still a good show. I would still recommend it, especially because you're going to be wanting to see this whole tapestry kind of attach itself and come together over the years, right? Because we're going to get Queen of the Damned next, which is arguably one of the best, if not the most popular book in the series. One of my favorites for sure. But the show has, I feel, a problem, at least in this season, that it didn't have before, which is it feels like they may have really, really tried to nail the expectation of actually creating a rock star in Lestat and creating the music for that and everything else. And that was where they spent all of their calories. And then everything else in the book was kind of shown to us and told to us through that lens, even like translating his dealings with Magnus in the first half in that kind of music video style.
Right.
We do get more straightforward backflashes, flashbacks, whatever, throughout. But even then, as it goes on, they're kind of stylized. And so for me, some of my favorite parts of the book, Vampire Lestat, and going into Queen of the Damned, because they kind of read as one, from my memory at least, having read them 20 plus years ago. There's a lot of philosophical, good versus evil. What am I? What is the nature of good and evil? What is the nature of life? There's mentions to the Savage Garden, as far as life, and that's the big analogy and the metaphor for life and in its philosophy, I guess, between him and his conversations with Marius. And they have a lot of time talking about the history of the vampires and things like that. And I can only assume that's going to continue maybe in Queen of the Damned, but they made Marius even seem like he was off his rocker and not completely just stone cold sober and philosophical in the books. And it's a departure from that character. And any philosophical musings or big questions that the books had are completely gone in the show. Just gone, not there.
As we talked about, you and I, in our last hot take episode, I'm unfamiliar with the source material of the novels moving forward from Interview with the Vampire. It's the only one that I've read. And I get all my information from you. And I can see that, yes, some of these characters seem to have taken a departure just based on the things that you told me, because Marius in the TV show just seems like somebody badly in need of a vacation. He's running off, and that's the extent of his character, really, right? And we're left with Lestat to be there by himself and sort of get these musings on his own.
I'm not even sure he was ever really left by himself. I mean, I could be remembering it wrong, but Marius is the keeper of them when Lestat is a rock star.
Yeah, but it seems but this was before the Rockstar days, right? Because it's obviously a flashback, but it seemed like he was there on his own without any information about who these 2 ancient vampires are. And Marius is well, bye, you were summoned to see ya. Yep. And then he has to find all these things out and eventually become, the vampire that he is through the Queen of the Damned.
Yes, which I really love that actress that they chose. I really loved her opening monologue. I thought that she was handled really well. I don't know what they're doing with Inkle. Is he dead? Is he not dead? You know, they really stumble upon in Marius's weird monologue a lot of that history in just like 30 seconds or less, but he's mumbling it all. Yeah. And like I could barely understand. And that's like chapters of history and like how he became a vampire and like in ancient Rome and all of these really, really fascinating stuff. Like Marius' story is amazing. And he's an amazing character. He's my favorite character actually from the books, and has his own book called Blood and Gold later. And this is just like everything is like a parody of itself in this by the end of the show. Lestat certainly is a parody of himself by the end.
One can only assume that they might go back and cover some of the things that you've mentioned, like in the next season. I mean, I don't know how they're going to adapt all these things into one long continuous show, but I mean, I know that it felt like the focus of this, as you said already, was really about his rock star status and the music, right?
Yes.
And that's where they spent all their time. And I don't really have a problem with that. Like I enjoyed the music. I'm glad that they had original songs, and I'm glad that they were able to take this sort of like musical quality to create the story.
For Queen of the Damned, setting up Queen of the Damned, it's a setup and a bookend and a medium, essentially, just for the story, for the flashbacks, and then also for why the queen wakes up. And he never becomes a rock star again after that. Like it's a whole thing in Death Valley. Is the concert there, and they're also alluding that she's causing some sort of like mass destruction, which doesn't really happen.
Oh yeah, because this
ends with like the broken like skyline of some city, I forget.
I know they're somewhere in Canada living,
like,
right?
The broken ruins of Vancouver, which raise your hand if you care.
Oh my God, what happened to Toledo? Yeah, I mean, like, okay, so we tried to avoid some spoilers in our first hot take, but I mean, it's going to be impossible for us to discuss this without giving away some spoilers. And like the ending for the Vampire Lestat season is far different than the ending for Interview with the Vampire season 2, right? When they concluded that story, that seemed to have a very, very definite end. And this one ends on more of a cliffhanger style, right? So it's like, oh Lord, here's what to look forward to in the next iteration of Interview with the Vampire TV series.
Yeah. So I think that one thing that this show has done very well is that each season has its own very clear, distinct personality and identity.
Yep.
Even with the two parts of Interview with the Vampire that they split out.
They all have a very distinct vibe. Like,
so that in itself gives me hope that once we get out of the strict POV of Lestat, which shouldn't really ever stop from here on out, and unless we get into specific, side quests, because there's a whole sub-series of books that has like that's either inside the Chronicles itself, like Blood and Gold. Marius, I think, is one of the books in the Chronicles. Mm-hmm. But then you've got like these one-offs like Pandora, who was around the time of Marius, and Vittorio, who has nothing to do with any of the other characters. But these are one-off books that aren't in the Chronicles.
I wouldn't think that they'd be doing that. I feel like
Well, we got a little bit of it this season, right? Because they're trying to shoehorn Louis in because he's a big actor. He's part of a show. He's part of the first 2 seasons, and they want a soft landing. I don't know if he's going to exit the show eventually or have a reduced role. He certainly has a reduced role from his last 2 seasons where he was the main character because he was the point of view, right? Now it's Lestat. And in the books, it kind of... it never goes back into the point of view of Louis again, as far as I remember. Certainly none of the books. So there might have been a chapter or something, but like there is a book later on called Merrick in the Chronicles, and she's a Mayfair witch. She's kind of an adopted or shoehorned in Mayfair witch. And they do have a situation with Claudia, the ghost of Claudia. We don't know if it was actually the ghost of Claudia or something trying to pretend to be her, right? But that was a one-off, and because they are shoehorning Louis' character in, they decided to move that from like 7 books in the future to present day into this. And I thought that was great. No, that was a great way to do that.
It was a really good scene too. Thinking about the back half of this season, like that was one of my most favorite moments because I was really getting bored with the other subplot of Louis and this lookalike Claudia waitress.
Yep.
I was just like, why? This is so boring to me. And
yep, and it's the writers going to be clamoring for keeping these actors and characters on the show for continuity for the audience when they're not trusting the audience, or for whatever unwritten rules of making TV shows, they have to keep these characters on. And that would have been something special. That was something special about the second season of Interview with the Vampire, which Lestat almost never makes an appearance. He makes a few brief flashback and maybe like some hallucinations walking alongside him in Paris and stuff like that. And then he makes an appearance at the end. But like, you can put actors and characters back on the bookshelf to serve the adaptation better. And I hope they do that.
I feel like a lot of TV shows do that. You know, I feel like they pick and choose who's going to be in these episodes. I mean, if you look at like the really long running things on like HBO, they will bring back a character from season 1, like in season 5 or 6.
There's a whole business side of it, though. Like, you kind of have to have these actors, especially if they're in demand, on retainer.
Yeah.
And to do that, they have to be in an episode, and they have to have so many lines, and they have to have all this, right? It's part of the contract making. So it's like, hey, if you're not going to have me in the next season, then these actors and their agents are saying, then there's no guarantee that we're ever going to be back. You're going to have to recast. Same thing that happened to that Claudia actress.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I mean, and I get all that, but it kind of begs the question then, like, who are they making this show for? Like, if they're making the show strictly for the fans of the source material, right? I feel like they would have done their best to keep it as close to the source material as possible. And if they're trying to include the lay people who just, vaguely know it from like the movie or something like that, then they went in those directions too. It seems to me like they're trying to please too many people at one time, and they really should just pick one. But
yeah, they're trying. Well, all of these shows, this is an expensive show to do.
Yeah.
And they have to try to get an audience. They have to have the built one in. That's their beachhead, right? But then they have to grow, or else it's going to either the budget's going to be slashed, or it's going to be canceled outright. Because and if there's not a draw to get on AMC Plus or whatever, and they say that people aren't interested, or they're not coming to it to watch this, or the book people aren't interested, or it's only the book people interested. We just saw that with Stargate SG-1 on it's like Netflix, or someone was going to pick it up and do a whole new series. Like, all of it was written, all the actors were going to come on, everything. And they said they ultimately passed on it. They were in pre-production and given it a budget and everything. They ultimately passed on it because they weren't convinced that they thought only sci-fi fans would be interested in it. Only the Stargate fans would be interested in it, and that it wouldn't appeal to anything else. And so that tells you everything you need to know about the industry right now. It has to appeal to everyone to essentially garner these budgets. Apple TV is able to sidestep this in a way because they are spending and not making any money. Mm-hmm. They're subsidizing everything to draw people to their platform, and so it does really feel like they have more quality over quantity. They have less shows, but the shows are better, right? And I wish all the streaming services would do that, but every show they have is like super big budget, and they're like the home of sci-fi and fantasy now. They're trying to be, and
horror now too. I mean, but then that translates.
But they are losing money hand over fist because they're $1 trillion fucking dollar company, and they're just trying to enhance the walled garden, and it's all to serve the brand. They have no interest in actually making money right now off of Apple TV, which is insane because it's not their only business. Netflix has their only business. All these other Amazon Prime, it's not their only business. They could do it if they wanted to, but they're canceling shows left and right.
I think like it will eventually translate into money for Apple though, because if you just look at the sheer number of like Emmy awards that Apple was just nominated for across several series, mm-hmm. right? Like they're critically acclaimed. People seem to really appreciate their output, right? And it's being like accoladed, if that's even a word. And so, I mean, it stands to reason that maybe some people should copy Apple's, platform.
Well, someone needs to take the 1,000-foot view, or even 30,000-foot view, and be like, okay, well, we have something for Apple's stance is like, okay, we have something for everyone and we're going to do the best we can at each one of those things, right? But we're not going to make a show that's every show be for everyone.
Yeah.
Right. And it just feels like the Netflixes of the world need to learn something from that. I don't know.
Well, we also have to remember that Interview with the Vampire and the Vampire Lestat are not just streaming shows. I mean, this is actually on AMC as a cable channel, right?
Yeah.
You know, and so like...
Yeah, I noticed all the commercial breaks.
Yeah, they really do have to sort of like pander to a lot of people. And based on the conversations that I've had with people, aside from you, who've watched this show, the people who seem to enjoy it the most have no concept of the source material aside from maybe the movie,
which is crazy to me.
Right?
But of course, the movie came out like 40 years ago or something, 30 years ago.
Jesus,
30.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, essentially.
Yeah, and these books were written like 30, 40 years ago. And until we get into the current where like I think the last one was written in like 2020 or something. But and then of course Anne Rice tragically died. But you know, I don't know that we're going to get anywhere near that far into the series because it gets weird.
Yeah, I mean, eventually it's going to stop being for everybody and just start being for the people who've read the books before, I guess.
I really want them to do Him Knock the Devil, but you know, if they make it into a parody, then I'm not interested as much. Eventually, I will stop watching this show if they continue to feed me mindless parody and vibes only, form over function.
I will say, you know, like we said earlier in this conversation, the things that were good remained good in this show. I felt like the writing stayed good. The dialogue was quippy.
Dialogue's great. It's one of their best things is the story is suffering.
Yeah, I mean, even like the characters.
What the fuck was this season about, really?
It was about Lestat spanking his inner moppet.
I guess so.
Through music. Which is fine because the songs were good. In fact, I kind of appreciated the music in the back half a lot more than the first. I know each episode seems to have its own particular song, right? Like the theme song of the episode.
Well, they really were trying to do like a Hedwig and the Angry Inch whole season. And that's what they did. They did exactly that. And it's not the book, which is fine, I guess. But at some point, I hope that a lot of that stuff gets at least put into Queen of the Damned. And hopefully they do an about face on Marius's character. But, we'll see.
Well, time will tell because it is moving forward.
It is. So. And the series is being retitled again to Queen of the Damned, as it should, which is one of the things I love about it.
Yeah.
They're not afraid to retitle it, And so I'm hoping that it has a whole new identity and a tonal shift and is not afraid to get a little bit heady.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we'll find out, I guess, because, like one of the, Anne Rice universe series over at AMC has already been canceled. So
Mayfair?
No, Mayfair is still on. It's the Talamasca. It had one season and they canceled it. So
that's right.
Done now.
So. Well, it's also one of the ones that's not based on actually any books. The Mayfairs are at least, based on books.
I watched the first 2 episodes of that Talamasca series after I finished Interview with the Vampire, and it's not good. I stopped watching it.
Okay.
So I was like, I don't care about these people. I do like Elizabeth McGovern, though.
Yeah, from Downton's Abbey.
Downton Abbey, and she has a British accent in this one. So, yeah.
I do want to call out, they'd had some great acting. I think we already mentioned that for part 1, but Sam Reed continues to be an amazing actor, regardless of the parody quality of it.
I think he carries the show.
He does.
This season completely. I mean, I think that the other actors were great too. Jennifer Eel was good.
I love seeing her.
And as much as I hate the character of Daniel, I feel like they gave him a lot more things to do this season. And he even had a little monologue where he was telling off Armand, and I was just like, wow, that was good writing. Yeah. So like they're taking that good writing and they're giving it to most of the characters. I wouldn't say all of them.
And I do like that they're making Armand less of like a silly little boy cuck, and they're actually making him like, hey, actually, he's actually pretty smart, and hey, he can actually be a threat.
Yeah, he seems very dangerous in this season.
Yes, and eventually everyone's just telling him to kill himself straight to his face, and he just looks kind of sullen and downtrodden about it. But then later on, you see that he's been building his own little army, and he has the power to do that. And I think that's cool. Later on, he's he is a threat. And that's what I missed a lot about. I really wanted full episodes of Lestat becoming a vampire, because his time, like learning how to be a vampire, turning his mother, his first experience with vampires was Armand, essentially. And that was fucking terrifying, because Armand just treated them like they were toys, like his playthings. And they had no idea about some of the capabilities of vampires and that Armand was showing. And they were just like nothing compared to his abilities and what he was able to do, because from their perspective, he was the oldest living vampire. He was 500 years old at the time of Lestat being born.
Well, I mean, I think that they briefly mentioned those things, you know what I mean? But you're right. We didn't get like full on examples of it. It was just like talked about or briefly shown. So
yeah, all of it was super truncated. It was like the best and meatiest and most interesting and most horror parts of those books. And it just was either completely gone or glossed over.
And I feel like the Vampire Lestat was one episode shorter than both of the Interview with the Vampire seasons, So yeah, they just like, they maybe could have, I mean, there could have been a reason why.
They only have X amount of people. And if they were really, like I said, spending all of their calories on making sure that this was a musical, and that's what they wanted to do, then they did their part. They did what they were supposed to do. But now that they don't have to do that for the next season, maybe it'll go back into story and such.
I should think it would have to. I mean, the tone is going to change for sure. And destruction is a coming, apparently. So, yeah. Well, I think that just about wraps up our entire conversation on the Vampire Lestat. As always, we want to know what you think about this TV season. You can tell us on social media at The Film Flamers, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Blue Sky, on Threads, on all the places.
You can email us at tiredqueens@filmflamers.com, like the Vampire Lestat did, which we shall be reading on the next Shooting the Flames, where he talks about what his thoughts on this season are, and may or may not mirror our own. So stay tuned for that. Also, you can call us at our hotline at 972-666-7733 and let your voice be heard. Let us know with your true soul and feelings in audio format.
That is correct.
I feel like there was a simpler way to say that, but
that's okay. Verbosity. Good. I am looking forward to that Shooting the Flames. We haven't heard from Lestat in quite some time. So, welcome back to the fold. Well, Chris.
Well, Robert.
I'm feeling super poetic, and I feel like I need to go and write some, emo lyrics on black paper with black ink.
Yeah.
And have some sweet dreams.